Fortunately, that is a majority viewpoint in America. 70% of the people want out of Iraq. Hundreds and hundreds of former admirals, generals, colonels, captains, intelligence officials, diplomats who worked under both Republican and Democrat administrations are opposed to this war. They opposed it before. They are opposing it now. Never in American history has there been a war that has been opposed by the established diplomatic, intelligence, and military officials who have retired from the government. It was against the judgment of the U.S. Army in the Pentagon, up to the 4-star level. The U.S. Army was muzzled. The U.S. Army was muzzled. This is a criminal gang that's taking over the White House. And we ought to say it for what it's worth. It's not going to change until every one of us ceases being a spectator and focuses on 535 members of Congress. Always remember, that's the institution that can turn this around, that can make this country great and prosperous and efficient and a beacon for the world. This is the country that can in effect say to the rest of the world, we are no longer going to be imperialistic, we're no longer going to mess around and support dictators who oppress people, and then they get angry at us because we're supporting the dictators who are oppressing and slaughtering these people. This is what we have to do, each and every one of us. Don't worry about what other people may be apathetic or not. You got to focus on 3 members of Congress, and you know them better than I. You got to focus on Senator Stevens and Congressman Young, who are entering their pre-felonious stage in their political career. And remember that word, that pre-felonious stage. And Senator Murkowski. Remember, it's just 535, 70% of the people are on our side, and it's growing, and that's a lot of conservatives and libertarians, mind you. And a growing majority knows they have to end that war. They know how to end that war. They know how to do what they're constitutionally authorized and, in my judgment, obligated to do. And there's 535. And how many of us are there? What's 70% of 300 million people? We outnumber them, don't we? And so we've got to put the pressure on. And I want to ask you, who in the next few days is going to email, send a letter, or telephone the local or Washington offices of Stevens, Young, and Murkowski? That's not enough. Let me hear it again. That's not enough. That's not enough. Come on, all of you. There isn't a single one of you who isn't able to send that message in all your colorful language and your heartfelt determination. That's what's missing now in Washington. Intensity and personal communications to your members. If we had 4 or 5 million people do that in the United States, in the next month or two, you'd see a very dramatic shift for the climactic decision of this fall on this war in Iraq. This war, this quagmire, this terrible blow to the necessities of the American people, which are not being addressed. Thank you very much.
And the next great honor that I have is to introduce Mayor Rocky Anderson. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. He said, take my time, but I'm not going to put you through a lot. But one single message I want you all to take home, keep in mind every single day. That is, you are the patriots. You're the ones that are here because of your love and concern and care for our country that is in deep, deep trouble. Deep trouble with an administration that lied us into this tragic, illegal war of aggression. An administration that has a chief of staff in the vice president's office who lies to a grand jury, is tried and convicted. We're supposed to have the rule of law in this country, but our president pardons him because he's part of the very elite, the privileged in this country that doesn't have to answer to our criminal laws. We are facing an administration and have become the sort of country that we have always been so proud to distinguish ourselves from in the past. An authoritarian government with a president who claims to be the leader of a unitary executive branch, an absolutely unprecedented idea that the president is above the law, beyond the reach of Congress, beyond the reach of courts, when he can claim a war on terror, a war that is without limits geographically and apparently without any time limits. This so-called war on terror could go on forever, and that would leave the President of the United States basically in the position of a dictatorship. We are facing a situation now where our country, in our name, for the first time as a matter of official policy, is kidnapping, disappearing, holding people incommunicado, no right to a lawyer, no right to habeas corpus, and torturing them, and in some instances, killing them, wiping them off the face of the planet without any accountability. It's a serious time in our country, folks, and please remember that patriotism doesn't mean anything, morality doesn't mean anything without a willingness to act. So when Ralph Nader asks you to let your congressional delegation know how unhappy you are with the course in this nation, every single one of you needs to be raising your hand and then following through with it, because you sitting here and us talking to each other today doesn't mean anything unless you're willing to translate that into action. Sustained action. Stand up for our country. Stand up for what's right. Stand up for our Constitution and the rule of law. And I have to say it, nobody talks a lot about this anymore, especially Nancy Pelosi and her bunch back there who went back. This last election was all about the people of this country saying we want an end to this war, we want an end to this corrupt administration, and so far I think they've given us an increase in the minimum wage. I think that's about what we've gotten out of this Democratic majority Congress so far. We need to let them know we want this president and vice president impeached for their crimes against peace, their war crimes, their subversion of our Constitution, their subversion of the rule of law in this country. Now, every single one of you, I want to see you raise your hands. Will you commit to let your congressional delegation know you want impeachment, you want an end to this war, you want to return to our constitutional values and the rule of law in this country? Thank you very much. Keep it up.